Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you very much for coming. My name is Miss Mora, and I have been working with Miss Gomez's class for 10 lessons.
Wow.
We have been Irish dancing. They have been finding out a little about Ireland and Irish culture. And they have also, they've been learning some acting skills, some drama, because today they're going to tell you a story. It's a famous Irish story, and it's called The Pot of Gold. But I think before we tell you that story, I think we should start off with a dance. Would you like to dance? Yeah. Face that way. When the music starts, we're going to count up to 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's go. Right and right, left and left, 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 right and right. Come on, to this one first. Right and left, left and left, right and right, left and left, right and left, left and left, right and right, left and left, right 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 and left,
Yay! Woo!
Once upon Ireland, there lived a man called Dan. Let's meet Dan. His full name was Dan Kelly. He was a farmer. Dan, come and sit here. I have to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that Dan Kelly was a farmer, but he was the laziest farmer in Ireland. He never did any work. He liked music, he liked dancing, he liked sleeping, he didn't like the rain, and he forgot to feed his animals sometimes. And he forgot to pick the apples from his many trees, so the birds ate all the apples. And then the apples would fall on the ground and then the worms would eat them. And then Dan completely forgot to pull the weeds out of the ground, because if you don't pull the weeds up, the potatoes can't grow, the grass can't grow. And then his neighbors would say, Dan, what's happened here? We've got sheep in our field. Your sheep. The fence is broken. Do you want us to help you fix the fence? And he would say, yeah, maybe another time. I'm going to have a little rest today. I was like, oh my goodness. And then one of the children in the neighborhood said, I think there's a pig living in his house. What? A pig in his house? All right, I don't believe that. Let's listen at the door. Oh, I can definitely hear a pig. Wait a minute, no. Oh, you know what? There's no pig. That's just Dan Kelly having a nap. He's snoring. Boys and girls, should we wake him up?
Yeah!
Okay, Dan Kelly, look after your sheep. Let's go.
Dan Kelly, look after
in Ireland it rains a lot. It had been raining for 2 whole weeks. One morning, Dan Kelly wakes up. He thinks, I hope it's not raining again. He goes to the window, he opens the curtains, and all he can see is a lovely blue sky shining. He's so happy. He does a great big jump. I'm so happy. Jump. Everybody jump. Show me how happy you are. Another big jump. Yay! Woohoo! The sun is shining. It's a beautiful day. Most farmers would say, today I'm going to work for 12 hours. But Dan said, I hear there's a festival in town with music and dancing. I'm going to go to that. Everybody, let's get dressed. So he gets dressed. He puts on his best red tie. And then off he goes. He leaves the house. Off to town, here I go. Off to town, and here I go. But then he turns around, and he can see the neighbors. The neighbors are all waving at him. Good morning, Dan. Good morning. Yeah. And then he waves back at them, and he thinks, wow, they are working hard. They are picking all of the apples today to sell at the markets. Let's watch them picking their apples. Reach, stretch, down in the basket. Reach, stretch, down, keep going. Give them another hand. Reach, stretch. Okay, you're getting a bit tired? Show me you're tired. Okay, let's pick up the basket, everybody. Pick up the basket. Pick up the basket. Right down behind you. You looking tired? Keep going. Great. Okay. But Dan Kelly said they're working hard. I'm having the day off. And he begins to dance down his field. Right and right, left and left, right and right, up right and right, right this way. Up heel and toe, up heel and toe, heel and toe, face me front, heel and toe, heel and toe, heel and toe. He was so happy, but then he heard a strange sound. And then he thought, wait a minute. He looked around a little more and he thought, I heard something weird, but I don't know what it was. And then he heard it again. What is it? He couldn't figure it out, but then he realized it's coming from down low. So he starts looking down near the ground and he hears it again. And he's pushing the bushes out of the way when all of a sudden, out jumps a leprechaun. Everybody jump back in surprise. Oh, wow! Let's point to him. It's a leprechaun. Oh my goodness. And then he sits down. And now the leprechaun is making a pair of shoes. Dan Kelly cannot believe his eyes. He thinks, is that a real leprechaun? I know leprechauns are shoemakers, but also they have a pot of gold. So I might be rich because he's on my land. What he cannot see is he can only see one leprechaun. Everybody sit down. Right behind him, but he can't even see them because they're invisible. Fairies and leprechauns in the flower bush, on the trees, in the bushes, and they are all shoemakers. But he can only see that leprechaun shoemaker over there, busy. But the fairies behind are busy making shoes. And some of them are sewing, some of them are hammering, tick-tack-tick. Some of them are using glue to make the shoes. Some of them are putting paint on the shoes. And as they make, you'll notice that these are expert shoemakers. They all have their different methods of making the shoes. They are attaching the heel. They are adding glitter. They are sewing and hammering the shoes, making shoes. They're making the shoes. And then Dan thinks, wow, he's a... I'd better say hello to him. I better introduce myself because I want to get the pot of gold off him. But I do know that leprechauns might play a trick on you. They can disappear. But then suddenly, the leprechaun waves at him. Good morning, Dan Kelly. Oh, Dan can't believe it. He takes a bow. And then he points to the shoes. Are you making a pair of shoes for yourself? Well, I'm making the shoes, yes, but these are not for me. These, and he holds them up high. He holds them up high. Hold them up high. I've just finished making them. These are the best shoes I've ever made. These are special shoes for the Queen of the Fairies. And he says, there she is over there. But Dan points, where is she? I can't see her. And he points to the tree. Right there by the tree. He says, is she invisible? No, no. She's just very special. She's the best dancer in Ireland. And she's coming here to collect her shoes today. Suddenly, the mist clears. And from behind the tree, spinning and flying, comes the Queen of the Fairies. Spinning, spinning, flying. Right, right, hop, right, up, right, up, left, hop, right, up, right, left, swing, hop, right, up, right, hop, left, right, up, right, heel, toe, head, hop, heel and toe, heel and toe, heel and toe, spin, heel and toe, heel and toe, heel and toe, step, 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 spin and jump, step, step, cross over, spin and jump, She goes over to the leprechaun. Right, so right. The leprechaun stands up. Your Majesty, here they are. Take the shoes. She sits down and puts them on. Everybody stand up. Queen and the leprechaun. Here we go. The Queen and the leprechaun dance together. Her shoes are made of gold, not leather. Big Dan Kelly was most impressed. He loves Irish dancing, and this was the best. Then she stood up and she started dancing. She stands up and she starts dancing with the leprechaun, and just the two of them dance together. Stand next to each other, face the front. Stamp, stamp. Here we go. Stamp, stamp, clap, clap, clap. Stand next to her. Clap, clap, clap. Stamp, stamp, clap, clap, clap. Stamp, stamp. Heel and toe, heel and toe, heel and toe, heel and toe. Switch. Heel and toe, heel and toe, heel and toe. Step, step, cross over. Step, step, cross over. Spin and jump. Step, step, cross over. Spin and roly poly. Roly poly up. Roly poly down. Roly poly up. Roly poly. Hands on hips. Up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. Dan Kelly is clapping. It's amazing. Can I join in? Can I join in? Yeah. Can I join in? But the Queen of the Fairies says, everybody get ready to do a jump. Say no. The Queen of the Fairies says no. Everybody jump. No. No. Only professional Irish dancers can dance. Well, the leprechaun goes over and he says, go over. And he says, hey, come on, Dan, you can join in. Queen of the Fairies? Queen of the Fairies? Let him join in. He's going to learn with us. So they all stand in the line and they face the front. Okay, everybody joining in. Stand, clap. Stand, stand. Meanwhile, Dan Kelly is running around. He's so happy. He's clapping. Yay! And he gives a thumbs up. Well arms. She walks around Dan Kelly. She's in a bad mood. She doesn't like Dan Kelly. She walks around him. She said, I don't like dancing here. It's full of weeds and they hurt my feet and all the stones. I don't like dancing. They trip me up. You know what? You're a lazy farmer and you should be clearing the weeds. And he says, I'm sorry. I'm going to clear it all up.
Ya va listo para que lleve a la comida.
Everybody go. Dan Kelly, do your work. Clear the weeds. Dan said, I promise I'm going to clear the weeds. I'm so sorry, Your Majesty. Perfect. But she said, no, I don't believe you. I hear you're the laziest farmer in Ireland. She waves goodbye to the leprechaun, and then she spins away, and she goes up, spinning and flying. Goodbye, I'm leaving. And Dan says, come back. But it's too late, she's gone. And then he thinks, I'm going to clear my whole field, I'm going to pull up all the weeds. But then he hears somebody laugh at him. Everybody laugh. Well, Dan does not like the leprechaun laughing at him. He goes over towards him. The leprechaun stands up, he's a little worried. Dan points to him. Where's that gold? Where's the pot of gold? But the leprechaun says, I'm just a shoemaker. I don't know anything about it. He says, yes, you do. I know leprechauns. They don't always tell the truth. So then he says, I don't know. Nice and loud. Go.
Where's the gold? I have to know.
Listen.
Let me go. I don't trust you. I don't like you.
Good, everybody, here we go. Where's the gold? I have to know.
Let me go.
I don't trust you, little man.
I don't like you, big bad
Dan. The next thing, Dan Kelly was a nice man, but now he's turning into a bully. He goes over to the leprechaun and he grabs him and starts to shake him. And he's turning him around. Give me my gold, give me my gold. Let me go, let me go. Give me the gold, give me the gold. Let me go, let me go. And then he says, all right, if you let me go, I'll show you where the pot of gold is. Follow me. So he lets him go and he points over that way. And he goes, it's this way. So Dan follows him. And as they go that way, he changes direction and he goes the other way. And then he goes, the pot of gold is right there under that weed in the ground. Dan Kelly walks around the wild weed and he looks at it and he thinks, my pot of gold is in there under that wild weed. The wild weed is waving around in the breeze. And then he has a little think. He walks forward and he thinks about it. Wait, leprechaun, stand, leprechaun, wait. Dan has a think and he thinks, you know what? I need to go home and get my shovel to dig up that weed, to get my pot of gold. But when I come back, that weed looks like all the other weeds. Looks like all the other weeds. How will I know that weed apart from any other? But then he has a great idea. Can you jump? I've got a great idea. Yay! He takes off his red tie and then he brings it over and puts it on the weed. Yeah. And then he turns to the leprechaun and he says, good, everybody all together. Promise you will not touch that tie. I promise, no way of a lie. So the leprechaun goes and stands next to the weed, and Dan runs home. And he looks in his living room for his shovel, but he can't find it. Is it under the table? Look under the table. Is it there? No. Look behind the couch. He's looking behind. Is your shovel there? Okay, look up on the shelf. Is it up there? No. Look over in the corner. Where is your shovel, Dan Kelly? You need your shovel because you can't trust that leprechaun. He is so worried, he goes into the next room. Go and look in the other room. Meanwhile, the leprechaun turns to the wild weed and he says, hey, wild weed, we're going to dance together. Now, you might think, how can a weed dance? Then he's already done some magic on the weed. So they're going to hit their knees 4 times. Here we go. leprechaun is going to do a magic trick. Go and dance over there, tap them on the shoulder. And as he taps each one on the shoulder, he taps them on the shoulder. And then the next one, come forward. He dances. Something very strange is happening. He played a trick on every single weed. And he's giving them all a red tie. And then he does more magic. And then he runs away. But Dan Kelly has found his shovel. Yay! Found his shovel. So now he's going to go and dig up that wild weed. Are you ready? Here we go. I'm going to be rich. Let go! Gonna be rich. Let go! Gonna be rich. Let go! He's going to 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 be rich. Let go! Oh no! Everybody jumped back in a big shock. Oh no! What's happened? Dan Kelly gets back to the field looking for one weed with a red tie. Instead, he can see 100 weeds with red ties. How did that happen? Where is the gold? He'll never find it now. He looks around. Where is that leprechaun? He played a trick on me. Dan drops his shovel. And he starts to cry like a baby. Oh no! The leprechaun played a trick. Now I'll never get my pot of gold. It's not fair. He picks up his shovel and he stomps home. Not fair. 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 Not. And you know what? Dan Kelly would never have any change in his luck because he didn't change. He was always lazy and he was always greedy. But that night, by the light of the silvery moon, the leprechaun and the Queen of the Fairies came running back in. And the leprechaun said, "Look, Queen of the Fairies, it's a full moon. We're going to dance all together." She said, "All together? What do you mean all together? You mean both together? There's only the two of us." He said, "No, look, they're all going to join us." And he points to them. But she says, "Oh no, I don't dance with weeds." Well, no. I don't dance with weeds. I'm the Queen of the Fairies. He said, "You don't understand. I turned them all into the best dancers in Ireland. They're as good as you now." She doesn't believe it until they dance, and then she's laughing because they are all as good as her. Everybody stamp and clap. Switch, heel and toe. also for the teaching staff here who are always really supportive. So thank you so much. Also to the custodian who made all of this possible for us. Also dancers, students, boys and girls, don't disappear. We need you in the line. We need you in the line. We need you in the line. Everybody. Yeah, even if you were a fairy or a queen of the fairies. So boys and girls, now that you've had 10 weeks of being an Irish dancer, I hope you will always be an Irish dancer. This is the time that you can remember all the steps. You can teach everybody in your family how to dance it, and then they can become maybe almost as good as you.
Can I go with my mom?
Yeah, not yet. In a moment. We might have a few minutes to say hello, to take photos. But first of all, we're going to take one more bow like an Irish dancer. We stand up straight, the arms down, point the toe. 1, 2, 3. Thank you,
Good
everybody.
job. Woo!
So I think in about 5 or 10 minutes, we're going to have the next class coming in quite soon. And then we'll have to take off all those red ties, those magic red ties. But leave them on for the moment in case you want any photos taken. I'm just going to put some music on quietly if you want to come and say hello to your child.
Tienen como unos 5 o 10 minutos para poder sacarles fotos si quieren. La otra clase va a venir.